Welcome, everybody. The specialists are back. Just Will this time, no Phil. We are here, or I am here, with Deal or No Deal Island finale recap. Don't know how long this one is going to be. So get your comments in. If we get some comments, I'll answer those. But I just kind of want to, it is the finale of a show we've been talking about all season. So I want to come here and give just my quick thoughts on the finale, what we liked or what I liked, what didn't really work. What we think we can improve upon, because it does look like we are getting a season 2 of this show. So, what can we fix? What can we learn? And I'm sure at some point Phil and I will be back to discuss all of this. So again, this is going to be a pretty short one. First thing I'll say, the fact that this second episode was almost entirely like that. And I think this episode would have worked much better if it was a 2-part episode where we got 2 hours in one. So Howie Mandel, the banker, I love all that. So man, this is kind of tough without Phil. So if we get some comments here, usually Phil's here to like berate me or ask me questions, but all I can say is that Howie Mandel's the banker, Joe back and forth, bring the cast back. That's what I really enjoyed about this episode. And it honestly makes me realize, okay, that's what works about the show once we have real money involved. So love that. What we did not like, what I did not like is, and we kind of talked about this last week, was how we go from 4 to 1 with no social game at all. Completely physical. We go from a very physical maze to, running back and forth, exhaustion, and then complete luck at what case you get. That's how we go from 4 to 2. And then what's the final challenge after a very physical challenge? What do we get? We get we're going to stand on a tightrope. We're going to reach out ropes, and it's going to be super physical, super intense. I don't think Amy really had any shot here. So Jordan just wins, and Jordan's game is, Howie, even at the final Deal or No Deal temple, Howie says, you kind of were a floater the whole time. That's for the winner of this show. That's what Howie's calling her out. So that's overall the biggest flaw, is that we went from 4 down to 1 with no social game at all. It was purely physical. And I guess, some chance with what briefcase you got in the maze. And the challenges all season long, for the most part, were like, are you a risk taker? Are you persuasive? Like, can you bluff? Can you gamble? Can you be a little devious? And these 2 challenges, the most devious things we saw in these challenges, and I am going to kind of group these into a 2-part finale, was Rob looking over at Amy's answer once she got it correct. He was quickly reprimanded, and that's something that we've kind of been told that's what the banker is kind of looking for. And then here, the most interesting part of this final challenge was Amy standing on the rails. They both fall, get up at the same time, and Amy realizes very smartly, I must add, that the best way to get through this is just to stand and shake so that Jordan will fall. Amy will then have a head start to get to the final. So those 2 moves by Rob and Amy, the most kind of what the banker was looking for this whole season, and yet those don't pay off at all. Jordan, she ends up winning. And look, I think Jordan actually has an amazing story here, and they did like their very best to make Jordan extremely likable. And hey, maybe she did play harder, and the show didn't want to include her on the negativity of the Night Owls, because the Night Owls would often sit around and be a little cocky. They go, hoo, hoo. And, Jordan really didn't get into that alliance until the very end. But here we have a comment. Now can season 2 have a floater? I don't know. I think it probably can. Boston Rob, it was great to have all the, all 13 cast members there cheering on Jordan. I think that was something, if I hadn't mentioned that already, the energy of this final Deal or No Deal game was super, super strong. Can there be a floater in season 2? Or what Marv is suggesting here maybe is that you see someone floating through the game, now you just take them out. I don't know. Is that still as threatening to a alliance that's together? Like if there is a 4-person alliance, let's say, and they're winning challenges and they're trying to plan moves and take people out, I still think that's probably more threatening, even if in the back of your head you're like, hey, there's a floater kind of just floating through this game. And I do think this happens with a lot of shows nowadays where the promoted gameplay, or the most exciting gameplay, we talk this about this with Survivor all the time, the big moves era, is that you want aggressive big moves gameplay, but that does not necessarily lead to good gameplay or something that the players want to do or something that will even help the players win the game. And yeah, Boston Rob called it out. The strategy of this game was staying in the middle, never being a target. Like, hey, if you win too many challenges, you'll be a target. If you're building an alliance and you're being a social threat, you're going to be a target. If you keep being safe every vote, you're going to be a target. Jordan was able to really not be safe all that often, kind of stay in the middle and not be targeted. Do we like that from a winner of a show that's begging us for kind of deceit and risk taking and persuasion and strategy? That part doesn't really add up. And I don't know, to fix that, to not have a floater for season 2, you probably need to go back pretty early to the drawing board, or maybe you start this end game a little bit later and that the end game isn't purely physical. Because in last week's finale, we saw, I believe it was Amy and Rob kind of made, hey, I got your back, you got my back. And then Jordan and Stephanie made a very similar, hey, you got my back, I got your back. Let's make a deal. Let's help each other out. And then the challenges that end up having the format of the show, how to go from 4 to 1, did not contain any elements that would help you out if you had an alliance. I mean, I guess you could argue, on the maze, you could share information. Amy was lying to everybody. Amy was lying to Rob. But I mean, those games were just not conducive to having alliances or having any sort of social strategy. So that's the biggest flaw here. We have some more comments here. Do we have age-based demographics for viewership of this show? I mean, I couldn't tell you. I imagine it's it probably skews older, especially because the Deal or No Deal brand, that was a show, that was popular years ago, probably like 20 years ago at this point. It's also on a network TV on NBC, prime time, which, the younger generations have cut the cable. So, of course, it goes to Peacock the next day, but I think it probably skews a little bit older. We have Bing Bong here with Rob knew Jordan was a threat. Too bad nobody listened. I mean, yeah, but I don't know if Rob ever made some like conscious effort to really, really like go after Jordan and say she's going to win this game if we don't do something about her. There were so many people coming after Rob that again, like even if you have floaters in season 2, if those aren't the people that are really actively gunning for you as a player, do you want to take them out? I don't know. We have Marv here saying that were super cool. I was expecting everyone coming back. Yeah, that was a nice, fun touch. And I'm trying to remember Deal or No Deal originally. Did they? I almost think it was like this like studio audience, but they were, very far away. They obviously weren't talking to the players. Maybe they would interview a family member or something, but it would get very dark, and there'd be this very kind of intense moment of you and the button. Like Deal or No Deal, this is up to you. This was just such a lighthearted segment of everyone chiming in from the sidelines, the peanut gallery, clearly having a good time, clearly wanting to see Jordan win at this point. And then again, Howie's banter. And I know it's all cheese. I know he was brought in there just to kind of really land this plane of season 1 of Deal or No Deal. And I think he did do a good job as playing this role of someone that, really this was his money. He's a big stickler, is going to make it really tough on her. Where at the end of the day, if we're really going to break down the game, and look, Phil and I on our recaps all season, I've kind of been confused on, is there a formula? How does it actually work? Because the examples we've seen have been like, okay, if the case is left, if we're going to use the formula one time, it would spit out this number. And if we're going to use that same formula later, we get a completely different number than what the show is showing us. So I've kind of been in this feeling that they're kind of just winging it with the deals offered. So here she starts off pretty well, and then I think she gets like 5 of 5 cases or 5 of 6 cases on the right column where she just eliminated a lot of big values, but the deal went up because I think the $13 million case was still there. So, hey, maybe that played a role. Rob even then says, hey, it's still that 13 million still up there. So that's kind of raising the average for all the other deals that you're going to get. And then when that case goes, you would think the deal would drop, but it actually goes up. I think it goes from like 1.19 7 million or $1,197,000 to like $1,230,000. So the fact that it went up after that case got pulled off the board kind of tells you what Phil and I have been saying this entire season, which is, does that case mean anything? How much influence does that case have? And it was just one case. It wasn't this special thing that was going to stay in the game or come in later. It was there from the start. She could have picked that thing first. I mean, yeah, she could have picked it as her own case number 19. And then to my surprise, the left side of the board was also filled up with starting with 1 cent going only up to 1,000. It did very much help that then the right side of the board started at the very lowest value. That was $1 million, followed by another million, and then a 1.5, a 1.5, maybe a 1.25 in there. All the numbers on the right side were like, if you had any of those in your case, you were going to get at least $1 million. So I see how that kind of protected them in that, look, their winner was never going to you're always going to be able to offer them 7 figures essentially, unless your first like 10 picks or 11 picks over their 22 cases. So 11 picks, maybe you just eliminated the right side and then there's no reasonable way, but the chances of that happening are so low. So I think the show always knew, hey, we're going to get to this spot. We're going to have the 1 cent case. We're going to have the dollar case, the $100 case. That's going to be a threat for the people at home watching that, wow, that the stakes are so high for Jordan, even for the people, right there, the 12 people helping Jordan. And obviously for her, that these stakes are super high. You could walk away with just like $1,000 after winning an entire game show. But you always kind of knew, and the show clearly knew they would have opportunities to give Jordan a winning champion deal that she would ultimately take. And here her deals just kept going up. I think it went 400,000, 600,000, almost 1.2, and then a little bit higher than 1.2. She does end up taking the deal. I think they were definitely doing her favors with this, and you kind of knew it. It kind of wiped over everyone's face. Like, all right, you just passed up on 1.2 million. Rob even said, that's a house and a car. That's a lot of money. She says no deal. Then she loses the case. She was freaking out. And I think as much as Howie wanted to say, hey, I got to protect against that 4.5 million or that 5 million in there. I don't know if there's any mathematical formula that really would lead to a $13 million case being removed from the board that would then increase the value of the deal, especially at that point. I think we were opening 2 or 3 cases at a time, which also very much helps the player. I mean, I remember some of the games this season, I think the games would start with 12 cases. And then it's like, all right, open 8 cases. And you're like, whoa, you have like no chance to even get like a bearing or establish kind of what deals are good deals or bad deals. So they really did everything here to make this game very favorable for Jordan, and as they should, because she's the winner of the show. They shouldn't make this too hard or too grueling, but the intensity was there, all of that. So, outside of kind of the concerns I've had with how do these deals work, who is making up these deals, do they know what's inside the case? Do they know where like each case is? All of this information, still kind of, I don't know, a little bit confused on that. But as a final game of Deal or No Deal, where the money is real and it's not just this fake money being added to this like one case that, again, clearly didn't have much influence, I got to say, I really enjoyed all of that in this segment. So let's see. We got some more comments here. So here we go. This is from Nostalgia714. So if everyone was reality TV stars in a season of the show, then it's harder to have floaters, maybe. I think this show could very well go the trader route, where it kind of has a mix. There's a couple people, obviously we knew Boston Rob. The first, what was his name? Bryson the first guy eliminated was a poker player who had been on TV. Kim had been on Sequester. We had Claudia as the case girl. So we had a couple familiar faces mixed in with a bunch of new players. similar to the Traders. And the Traders said season 2, we're just bringing it. You're going to know everybody. I do think that would help this show so that you don't get random people that aren't playing hard. But then all we keep seeing is these casting kind of flyers as we go through these episodes. Like, hey, go to, DonDisland.com or .tv to check out casting. So if they're probably going to get a bunch of random people, and hey, maybe they're going to, now that people have seen the show, they'll get a casting pool and cast players that they know are going to play hard and aggressively, and all those traits that the banker has been looking for that Jordan didn't fully possess. Okay, we got Bing Bong here. Which Survivor player should be on season 2 of Dondi? That's a good question. I think it needs to be somebody who is big enough of a player. Like, it can't be, I don't think it can be like even a new era person who's played once. Like, can Austin, a really fan favorite, successful player who was runner up in season 45, that's not a big enough name. And so if we're really got to go with parallel Boston Rob, I think, hey, maybe someone like Tony who comes in and plays Deal or No Deal Island. I feel like he would play really hard. Maybe Tony's challenge performance he would need to work on a little bit. Maybe somebody like Tyson, just because he's played so many times. Again, I don't even know if Tyson is a big enough name to compare to Rob. And then obviously maybe Sandra or Sari, just players that have been on other shows. We have to remember too, Rob had a short poker career. He was on The Amazing Race. He had his whole wedding on TV. It's not like he's just been on Survivor. So I think some sort of player that has spanned across multiple shows. Maybe Parv could be good. I think any of these like mainstay players that have really have left the sphere, the orbit of just playing Survivor. Here's Patrick. Patrick always tries to explain this stuff, and then I never quite wrap my head around it. A lot of the time it's live on the chat and we're like podcasting or going through. So maybe now that Phil's not here, I can kind of bite into this. They increased the percentage of the EV every round in every version of this game, I believe. So playing longer often pays off. Yeah, I hear you with that. And when she did eliminate 5 cases and the 13 was still there, the $13 million case was still there. It's like, okay, well, because there are so few boxes left, because she just eliminated like 5 boxes, I can see it going up because that big case is still there. But then she eliminated like 2 boxes, and one of them was the 13 million, and it went up. That's where I get confused, because I don't think, like, you didn't eliminate enough cases where the amount of cases left had enough influence, and you obviously got rid of the largest case by far. So again, I've looked at these numbers and I don't feel like there is a consistent formula. If there is, I mean, I feel like in the comments people have tried to share here. We have Patrick coming back again. It was definitely jarring. They jumped from like 40% of EV all the way to 7. Okay, so you're agreeing here that it's kind of all over the place. So I think at this point with Deal or No Deal Island, we have to accept that, at least for me as like a reality TV fan and someone who likes the games part of it, and then like crunching the numbers on all this stuff, probably not going to be satisfied with any answer they give, or like, why are deals this way? Why are there personal offers here? To me, it feels like a lot of production interference, and that just might be the nature of the show. We're getting to almost 20 minutes here, so I will wrap this thing up unless we get a few more comments. But that part I think we just have to live with. For me, biggest thing that we have to kind of look at moving forward is the ending. Let's end with not just who's the most physical player, because maybe then Jordan doesn't end up being your winner here if you need to rely on strategy and wit of some kind. I don't know if anyone here who's watched the Genius, some of those final head-to-head death matches in the Genius games are so good. And we have these briefcases. Again, the briefcase prop works. You can put anything in there to have like maybe some mental game of risk taking, push your luck, bluffing. Like, there's got to be something we can do with these briefcases once we get down to 4 or 3 or even 2, where it's not just physical. Challenges overall, I think, were really good, really well produced. We covered those the whole time. got to figure out how to like not punish people for playing hard. And that's not something unique to this show, as we've talked about. I mean, like even something like the Traders, where like Peter of season 2 was clearly like the best player in terms of like the moves he made, but he was never going to win once he made any of his, big moves, even turning down the recruitment. I mean, that's a huge move. That's surprising and shocking, unpredictable, all of that, but ultimately led to his demise despite it being entertaining for us as an audience. So again, that's not a Deal or No Deal Island problem. It's just finding a way to reward the people for playing hard and don't let people that, are just hanging out in the background find success and find, if they make it to the finale, you're always going to get like one or two of those people, I think. But to have that person be your winner, not like the best look for the show. Again, I think they did a great job of making us care about Jordan, someone we did not know very well throughout the season. I think we got to know her more maybe in this finale episode than we did the entire, previous 11 episodes or 10 episodes. So good on them for that. Final game was a lot of fun. Trying to think if I have any other thoughts or notes. I mean, Boston Rob, he goes out early. I know that was like our big cliffhanger. We kind of saw that coming, right? Amy was pretty far ahead of Rob. Rob had that big time penalty. What does this mean for his legacy as a reality TV player? I don't know. I think this was a fun show. He made it longer than I think any one of us really lasted. He was technically in every episode of the show, getting eliminated at the start of the finale. So good on Rob for even making it that long. I doubt it's the last time we see Rob in our TV shows, especially if they're doing more shows like this. Having like an anchor, even if you bring on new people, having like an anchor reality TV veteran to like carry you through and be a narrator for you as a season 1 show, I think this was a successful experiment in that. So that's going to do it here on a very quick, very rambly, kind of bouncing all over the place. Again, I'm sure we will get Phil's thoughts at some point. He's on vacation, but those are my just kind of word vomit thoughts on Deal or No Deal Island finale and the season as a whole. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow. Blake and I will be recapping Survivor, and then I don't know when Phil gets back. He gets back at some point. We'll break this finale down. I enjoyed it overall. Again, enjoyed the final Deal or No Deal game, which was most of this final episode. And we will see you all next time. Thanks for listening and watching.